Good afternoon, everybody. Good to be with you. My name is Marc Trotz. I'm with the Department of Health Services here in LA County, and I'm the Director of Housing for Health. And as I think was mentioned, I do come from San Francisco, but I am down here in LA now and loving it and think we have tons of potential. So some of what Raphael was talking about is true. We do seem to get a lot of attention up there, but I think what's happening down here around homelessness and housing is we're really at a great moment. So I think we're ready to make that splash that Raphael was talking about. The other thing I'd just like to mention is that some of you know that Dr. Katz used to run the health department in San Francisco, and he's down here running the Department of Health Services. And when he was trying to convince me to come down here, which I was very intrigued with in terms of how much help and how much good work we could do in LA with the enormous homeless population there is down here, I said, well, I just want to do it. I don't want to study it. I'll come down, and I happily come down, but I don't want to study it or figure out how to finance it. I just want to get on the ground and do a ton of units. And he was really happy with that. That's because that's what that kind of guy he is. And before I got down here, he was announcing around that we're going to do 10,000 units of housing linked to the health system, which I thought was really exciting. It's a little daunting, but I like that kind of goal, and so that's why this is called 10,000 units of housing linked to the health system, and that's what we're going to do, and we're off to a great start. It's truly astounding how many homeless people are down here. And I live and work downtown, and the situation in downtown and Skid Row is heartbreaking every day. And in fact, we just moved our offices from this sterile government office at the end of Fig and Temple on the 9th floor to Maple and 6th, right in Skid Row, because we want to live and breathe this situation every day, and we want to make a serious difference on the streets in Skid Row and LA County. This number, by the way, this 57,000 includes, 10 or 15,000 of the so-called hidden homeless. Is that the term that the county? So this number is disputed to some degree. Some call it 40,000, some call it 57,000, but it really doesn't matter. There are way too many people homeless down here, and I think the efforts of people in this room and a lot of other people, we can make a big difference quickly. How much total time do I have?
You have right around 10 minutes.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna speak quickly. Our goals are to create 10,000 units of housing. Our real ambition is to be part of the collective effort to end homelessness in Los Angeles, which I think in a county and a city as rich as Los Angeles, it's absolutely doable. And there's so many great ideas and great people working on it. We're being the health department, so much of what Daniel was talking about is exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying because it's the right thing to do to house our most vulnerable patients and clients, and by not doing that, we're spending insane amounts of money on a daily basis in our medical centers. For those of you who don't know it, DHS runs the major county medical centers, LAC, USC, and others. And so we see firsthand what not having housing for these folks means. And it's horrible for them. It mostly means ultimately that they die in their late 50s and early 60s, and it means that we're spending inordinate amounts of money on people on a daily basis. And of course, we want to, as the county health system, one of our overarching goals is to improve their healthcare status and their well-being. I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide. I think Daniel's information goes through this. There's tons of cost studies that talk about the savings to the health system by housing somebody. But that's just a quick overview of that. We're focusing on a population that we're our target population is, homeless DHS patients with complex physical and behavioral health conditions. We don't necessarily have strict cutoffs. We're not operating from a situation where you have to have an exact amount of hospitalizations within a given month or a given year. We actually have people's lifetime medical records at our disposal. Our clinical colleagues in our different institutions know exactly who the people are, who they've been seeing year after year, and that's how we're identifying them. Mainly that you don't have a place to live, you're frail, you're sick, you're vulnerable, and you need somewhere to recover. That's our target population. Again, I won't spend a lot of time on this slide. Here's the common ailments and conditions that our people that we're trying to house have. HIV and AIDS, of course, being one of them, but multiple other conditions that people are suffering from. So, in addition to trying to create thousands and thousands of housing units, this is a daunting task in terms of trying to figure out how to rationalize this system that we have, this big county health system. And this is a depiction of what we're trying to do, which is basically set up this big funnel where we're catching folks in our hospitals and clinics and sort of routing them into a part of our new section, Housing for Health, where we're basically triaging those folks and referring them back out to this growing network of housing. And this is really a work in progress. We're a really large system. DHS is 18,000 employees alone and a $4 billion budget. And we're spread all over the county, and there's old systems of trying to identify who needs this type of housing, and there's someone in some medical facility who knows somebody at some shelter or something like that and has been using that for years and years, and we're trying to change that practice and make it easier for all of our clinicians to access housing. And that's what this depiction is. I'll just say our main work is on permanent supportive housing, but we're also investing quite a bit of money into creating interim housing solutions to do what Daniel was talking about in terms of having somewhere to place someone immediately en route to housing. I'm going to spend most of the talk on our housing methods because I think those are kind of what we're really pioneering right now. But I'll just say there's a million ways, there's a lot of ways to house people and stabilize homeless people. There's a lot of different names for all the different things that we do, but I think when you strip it all down, you need two things. You need someone to care and love for people. We're calling it intensive case management. You can call it wraparound services. You can call it do whatever it takes services. You need that on the one side, and you need housing on the other in the form of a rent subsidy or some other way. You put those two things together, and you can make someone not homeless. And there's a lot of ways in this county to do that, and there are actually a lot of housing resources to do that as well. Some are existing, some are in the affordable housing world, some are scattered throughout, some are in one place. We're investing a lot of time in growing this network of intensive case management providers. We call them ICMS providers. If you look on our website, if you're an organization that wants to provide those services, we're looking for more providers. You can become a service provider with us. So we're looking to grow that network. Returning back to this notion of interim housing, we're working on two levels. We're creating recuperative care, basically, which is an interim housing environment that has more medical capabilities or more clinical capabilities. People stay for about 2 to 6 weeks in recuperative care, and we're also working on something we're calling stabilization housing that's not quite as medically enhanced, but is a place for someone to come right off the street and be there until we can get them into permanent housing. So to support the flow into 10,000 units of housing, we think we need, somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 to 700 of these interim housing environments. I think the thing I'm most excited about right now is this flexible housing subsidy pool. For someone to get housed, you need somehow the difference between their income, and when you're talking about a homeless person, that might, on average, if we're talking about paying 30% of their rent, for rent, 30% of their income, whatever that is, to rent, that might be $150 or $200, depending if they're on general relief or SSI or have no income. But any way you slice it, you can't house someone unless you have, in some way, the difference between that 150 and that, say, $800 or $1,000 it takes to get into housing. And so Section 8 is a great tool for that, but it's very limited. We will never house, or I shouldn't say never, in the near future we will not house the 47,000 homeless people or the 50,000 homeless people, the 10,000 chronically, or whatever, using Section 8 alone. So the health department and others, and most notably the Hilton Foundation with $4 million, we put together a pool of $18 million that is an alternative housing authority, essentially. And I'll explain a little bit more how we did that. It launched earlier this year. You can see the $18 million, that is our starting pool. We're working with a group called Brilliant Corners. They used to be known as West Bay Housing. They're our housing intermediary. We took that money and we got it outside of government. They are basically our housing engine, and, to be able to find any type of housing that is appropriate for the people that we're trying to house. This can be anything from a single unit in the valley to a block of 100 units downtown, which we just secured, to 50 units in Antelope Valley, which we have, and so forth. And this is how we're going to get to the scale we need. This sort of unlocks the whole government bureaucracy around housing. The other important thing about this subsidy is there's no absolute exclusions in terms of people's documentation, in terms of people's felony convictions, and so forth. So we match this rent subsidy, which is an average of $750 per unit per month, with an ICMS provider, an intensive case manager, and you put those two things together, and right now, we can house any DHS client or patient in that way. It's not reliant on any other system. This quickly, I'm running out of time, so I'm going to go even quicker. This quickly depicts how it works here, with Brilliant Corners being the finding us units. They have found us over 400 units since they started. They help us negotiate the lease. They help the tenant get into the unit, and our intensive case manager, who are all of the sort of well-known agencies, including PATH, in LA, are staffing the support services. And if we're in a single building like the Star Apartments where there's 102 units, the team is on site. If it's a scattered site network of housing, it's a roving case management team. And we are sizing the intensive case management at about 15-1, so the case managers really do have the time to work with the tenants and our clients becoming tenants, and adjusting and normalizing into life indoors. A lot of programs you'll hear, if you drill down, the actual case management ratio is 30, 50, 100-1, and the folks that we're targeting really need more direct assistance than that. You can see our goals. Just for this new rent subsidy program alone, we're going to be doubling every year. So this year, we just got started. We're exceeding 300. Next year, it's 600. The year after that, it's 1,200. And the year after that, it's 2,400. I mean, one of the important things that we feel about doing this work is if we keep doing this work and bragging about it and not showing any results, people maybe outside of this room or inside of this room are going to continue to think, you're full of it, basically. And I think I often see that when we do these panels, say in a community with residents of downtown and so forth. We'll get up there and everyone will say, we've got this program and this program and that program, and you can see the bubble over their heads, and they're saying, well, why did the streets still look the way they do? So we feel like doing this at this scale with our other partners, we actually, really the only thing that matters is the real difference that you make in someone's life and in the community, and we hope to show that. I'm going to just flip through some pictures to show you the variety of projects. So this was our first project in South LA. $10 million of buildings given to us by HSID, the housing agency. We teamed it with Section 8 and our support service dollars. This is the Star Apartments. This is where we just moved our office. So the corner building right there is my office, not right there, but in that space. And all of the people that work with me doing this work. On the other side of the building, we have a brand new health clinic, and above 100 people who were high utilizers of DHS health services are now living there and have been for the last 9 months. This is the Alexandria. I don't know how much time you guys spend downtown. Big, big hotel on, micro lofts on Spring Street. These are complete units with kitchenettes. We have 100 units there. The owner was kind enough to build out support service space, and LAMP provides the support services on site. So this is housing that was there. This is housing that was vacant downtown. So we moved in chronically homeless people who pay $150, and we pay the balance of that, and now they're living in downtown on Spring Street. And that's the examples.